Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Sinasamaki or Ian Lashan, and I'm here to talk to you about creating delightful UI. The title says Android UI, but I'm using Compose multi-platform, so if you're in iOS, don't be afraid. So as you can see, my slides are made in Compose multi-platform, so excuse any errors that might happen along the way. Okay, so yeah, that's me. Uh, a little about a little bit about myself. By day, I work at Imagely. We just create photo and video editing SDKs, and yeah, I have fun there. But by night, I'm Sinasamaki, and I write blog posts about creating delightful UI using Jetpack Compose, and I enjoy it. Yep. So for this talk, this will be kind of our main character. It's just a simple list item. We'll see how to create delightful animations on it, nice interactions. For example, we're able to tap it and select it. Think of it like an email item, list item, where you can also slide it to the right to archive, slide to the, sorry, yeah, left to delete. And for this presentation, we'll just jump back when it can. Okay, so let's start with layout fundamentals, like what are the building blocks to create the interface to begin with. And in Compose, there are quite a few, but the main ones to look at over here are column, row, and box. And as you can see, over here, the column just takes the items that you give it over here and arranges them vertically. The row does the opposite, so it arranges them side by side. And the box just puts things on top of each other. Okay, so using this, we're able to kind of start creating our list item where we use the rows, columns, and boxes to arrange the elements. And as you can see over here, we just have everything squished together. It is, aligned and it is like arranged properly, but it's not aligned with a list item. It's not, doesn't have enough space to breathe. So we need to figure out how to do that. So for that, we need modifiers. Modifiers, if you write Compose code, you're very familiar with them. And what they do is just take whatever Compose element that you have and add something to it. It could be layout, it could be gestures, it could also be other things that we'll see later in the presentation. So right now, we've added a few modifiers onto our list item. And now we can see it is looking much more delightful, and it has like space for breathing. A few modifiers that I used for this one is the border modifier. So what this does is just adds a nice border to your element. And you can also define the width, but also the color or gradients. In this case, I do like using gradients, so I used a gradient, vertical gradient, so you can see it's kind of like disappearing towards the end. And I'm also using a rounded corner shape, so you have like a nice border radius around it. I also have a background modifier, so you can use background modifier to set a background on any of the elements. Here, as opposed to the border where I use a gradient, here I'm using a solid color, and I'm also using the shape to give it a nice border radius. Other modifiers that you can use, this dot width modifier, and you can use this to set the width of your elements. You can also use it, in this case, I'm using it for a spacer. So this is something that you would use, let's say, in between these elements so that they're not touching, but you have like a few pixels of space in between. Okay, let's see one of the main, I guess, foot guns with modifiers. It's mostly the order. So the order you apply these modifiers matters a lot. It could mean the difference between seeing something on screen and seeing nothing on screen. But right now, I just want to talk about uh, the ways you can like use modifiers and come up with something that is functional, that's working, but it's not really pleasant to look at. So one modifier we have available to us is the clickable modifier. And with that, you're able to put like a touch interaction and say when they click, do this action. But as you can see over here, when I test it, it is working. I can tap it and click it, but you can see that the touch highlight or the touch border is not reaching the edges. So if I were to click over here, as hard as I click, nothing happens. It has to be like within this invisible area that we don't know the bounds of. And as you can see here, it's because I have a padding above the clickable modifier. So as I said, order matters. So this means that the padding is being applied first, then the clickable modifier. A quick fix for this would just be to flip them. So put the clickable modifier above the padding. And with that, we can click all the way to the edge here that we were not able to click with the previous element. But at least to me, this doesn't feel perfect because as you can see, when I have the touch highlight, it is extending beyond the borders. Even if we had like no padding over here, we would still have some overlap overlap of like the rounded corners because the touch highlight has like a rectangular border. Uh, what I tend to do in these situations is add another modifier called the clip modifier. So what this does is just gives you the option to say within this shape, only show things within this shape and discard everything that is outside. So that works very nicely with our list item over here. So as you can see, when I do the touch highlights, nothing is going beyond the bounds. I can only touch inside, and also we're not getting any taps that are outside being taken in as actions inside. Okay, we touched a little bit on gestures with the clickable modifier, but now let's dive a bit deeper into it and see what we can do with it and what animations or what interactions we can deduce from it. So the clickable modifier takes in an interaction source that you just create like that. And using this, you can kind of check not just when the user taps, but you can also say the user is hovering, let's say for Compose Desktop, or if you have an Android device with a mouse connected, you can say the user is hovering and get like a true-false state for that. You can also get a true-false state for when it is pressed. So you can see over here, I'm collecting the state. And then using these Booleans, I can add different things onto it. Right now, I'm choosing to use the inner shadow. So right now, if I hover over it, you see kind of like the blue inner shadow. And if I press, it gets more intense. So what you're seeing here is I'm increasing the radius to the highest when it's pressed, a bit lower when it's hovered, and 0 when nothing is happening on the element. And that gives you this nice glow interaction. Another type of gesture that we can use in this case is the swipe gesture. I showed you in the beginning that we should be able to swipe this element to archive or delete it. You can do this in multiple ways. In this slide, I'm using the swipe to dismiss box, which gives us some nice out-of-the-box animations for this. And how to use it, you just have like the background, which is what you see when I slide it to the side. And you can see the delete action and the archive action over here. And then we have the list item, which is in the content of this swipe to dismiss box. But what I want you to note over here is how I'm using the target value. So to make this interaction a bit more intuitive to the user, I want to communicate to the user when an action will be done. So let's say I'm dragging it to archive. I want them to understand that if they were to, let's say, change their mind and let go, it will go back to where it started. But if they were to swipe past the threshold of like, if they let go right now, it will archive. I want to show this with like a stronger inner shadow and a stronger blue color to show them something will happen when you let go. And the same thing for the delete side. Okay, so let's go on to animations. This is what I love doing, so yeah, one of my favorite parts of using Compose. And there are many ways to add animations in Compose. If you go through the Android developer docs, they have like a whole flow chart just to show you, this is what you should use for this situation. But I won't go through all of them. I'll just highlight a few ones that I find relevant for this list item. And one of the main ones I use is the animate as state functions. And what this does, it takes any value, or not any value, value if it's like defined on how to animate it, usually floats for me. And based on that target value, it just animates to it. So you don't have to do any timings or call.animate to or anything like that. You just say, give it a state, and it will figure out the animation. It will also figure out like when it's interrupted and you choose and you have a different value, it will figure out the velocity change for that. So I'm using that right now for the selected and focus animation. And as you can see, I'm just checking the state, whether it's selected or whether it's pressed or hovered, and setting the values I want in this case. And for the selected animation, you can see here that I'm passing in something called an animation spec. And this takes in either a defined value, or a spring, which is just saying how stiff do you want the animation. So stiffness low is like very slow. You can do stiffness high, that is fast. And you can also set damping, which makes it bouncy if you want that. So now, I'm not sure if it's very visible here, but there is a subtle animation. So the inner glow is not just appearing, but it's like growing from the edges. And the same thing is happening with the background color when we select it. So the good thing with animate as state is it just gives you the value to use in your modifier or wherever you want to use it. And that's what I'm doing over here. Okay. The next thing that you can see in terms of animation is that when I select it, the check mark is not just appearing, but it's rather like growing and fading in from the center, which I think looks much better. And for that, Compose has like a very simple thing you could use, animated visibility. And what this does, it takes in a Boolean, whether it should show the element or it should not show the element. And based on that, it will animate it. On top of that, you can also pass in enter and exit animations. As I said, it is scaling in and it is also fading in. And Compose uses the very nice Kotlin language features to make this very intuitive. So you can see I'm scaling in plus I'm fading in. And then for the exit, scale out and fade out. But as good as this looks like, it's very unfortunate that it's limited to only the animations that were provided. So scale, fade, expand. Yeah, there are quite a few, but they're not exhaustive. They're not covering every case that you want. For example, if you want it to blur in, or you want it to rotate in, that's not covered. Fortunately, you can create custom animations. So inside the animated visibility, you have access to the transition, and you can use this transition to create your own custom animations just using float values or anything else that you'd like. And using that, you can use it. You can use the values it produces in your animated visibility, and it just works without you figuring out any timing, messing with launched effects when it's coming into view or not. You just need to set the rotation, and it will handle it for you. What you need to set in this case is just telling it what is the desired value where before the animation starts. So when the animated visibility is still invisible but about to come into view, and then you tell it what it should be when it's in view, and then you tell it what it should be when it's exiting the view. And with that, I can zoom in here. Just have like a very subtle rotate animation on the check mark, which makes it appear to have a bit more character. Okay, so far I've covered usage of animation for producing delight, but we can also use it for other things. For example, to guide the user, to show the user what's possible and what's not. So, for example, you can use animation for an onboarding flow where you're telling the user that, hey, this card or this list item can be swiped left or right. And this is because swipe animations or list swipe animations are not that discoverable. I mean, if you've used apps, a lot of times you might know you can swipe some stuff, but maybe if you're a new user or you have this swipe interaction in an app that you don't know, maybe you know email apps have swipe actions, but my transit app, you don't know if it does. In the onboarding flow, you might be shown, hey, this thing can move, and then you land the interaction. Other than learning the interaction, you can also teach the user, hey, this is not possible. So let's say, for example, we have like an email list item that we cannot delete for some weird reason. If the user tries to swipe it and nothing happens, it kind of looks like an error is happening or the app is crashing or frozen or, yeah, not so good. But let's say, for example, instead of doing nothing in this case when they try to do this, we show them kind of like a bouncy animation saying, no, don't delete me. And of course, this is only the visual part of in your database. You'll make sure this item cannot be deleted, but just to communicate to the user in a nice way that this cannot go away, we have that. Okay, next thing, accessibility. As much as we want our apps to look beautiful and have fancy and have like all the animations, it's always good to also look at the accessibility side. And in this case, I'll talk about another modifier. It's called the semantics modifier. And this is very useful to me, it just feels like a low-hanging fruit to add accessibility to a custom element that you built. So with the semantics modifier, you can do multiple things, but in this case, you can give the list item a label. So this is what, if they have, if they have like the content description to like speak out to them, it will tell them this is what the element is. And then to define any custom actions that you have. So for example, our swipe actions that may not be discoverable based on the accessibility features that they have on. You can define the custom actions that you have and give them names, give them labels. And then inside here is where you can call the archive or delete function. Just note that this should return a Boolean, whatever thing you call it. So just to tell the semantics modifier the action is complete or not complete. Okay, next, haptic feedback. This is not very visual, but like it does help with the experience. So when you're using an app and you perform like a click action or a swipe action that you want your users to feel the weight of, it's good to use haptic feedback. I use haptic feedback a lot because I'm not so good with audio. Every time I try to add audio to my app, while testing, I just feel like it's uh, annoying to me. So I usually tend to stick to haptic feedback until I get better at that. So how do we do that? How do we use it here? As I mentioned, we can use it for clicks that you want the user to feel the weight of. But in this case, I'm using it for our swipe action. So for example, when the user swipes the list item to the point where if they let go, it will trigger an action. Uh, that's the will trigger Boolean. We perform some haptic feedback based on that. And if will trigger comes back to being false, we perform a much subtler haptic feedback to show that, hey, it's okay, nothing will happen. I can't demo this for you on stage, unfortunately, but I can simulate it with a vibrate. Yeah, when you pass the threshold, it like just shakes the list item, and then when you go back, it does a more subtle vibrate. And this works well in Compose multi-platform. So if you define it here, it will work seamlessly on your iOS and Android. And then, of course, on desktop, it won't do anything. Okay, so why do all this? At first, I usually find this question a bit hard to answer because I think I'm the type of person who can spend like hours to months on an animation, try to make it look nice. But I do think there's also value towards it, especially right now with much more apps out there overcrowding the market. I think it's very useful to stand out and make your app feel delightful, make your users feel like, hey, they thought of this feature, or hey, they thought about this interaction, and provide some delight to them and yeah, show them something cool. Let me step back away from app development and also talk about this presentation. Similar to what I said about standing out from the crowd, I also wanted to stand out from the crowd with my slides. That's why I'm making it in Compose multi-platform. And it's because I write Compose code for a living, like 24/7, and I don't do any PowerPoint. So if I were to make PowerPoint slides, it will be looking terrible. But if I make it in Compose, it'll be nice. Uh, so some of the animations I have here is, for example, this is the intro animation, and the goal for this was to kind of like uh, say like a small wave hello and like make, I don't know, if someone was like about to walk in and see what my title is, and they would see this and, they'll be welcomed in. So you could think of this almost like onboarding or like in your app to like welcome the user into it. You also saw this animation in between the chapters, and this was just to kind of like like make you excited for the next chapter, for the next thing that I'm about to talk about. And this is just a small canvas animation with multiple shapes animating in and out. Maybe don't add this in your app. It's running on a MacBook right now, which is performant, but you might ban your users' devices with this animation. And then also just to add like some visual flair to it, I had this cube in the background. It's actually using graphics layer to rotate using a matrix, and you can just swipe it around if you please. yeah, you can also put composer elements in there, but it doesn't look so good sometimes. And inside it, I have this random canvas lines and a border with some nice gradient on it. But other than nice animations and trying to make it visual for you guys, another reason for doing the presentation in Compose is that I'm not bringing videos, GIFs, or screenshots. I'm actually rendering the things that I'm talking about on screen. And that's why you can see, as I was showing you the code, I was also showing you the interaction that is happening to the list item. So it makes it a bit more real and a bit more tactile to show these elements live. And to get even more meta, I also have like a composable for displaying the code. So it passes the Kotlin code and figures out what to highlight in terms of like the syntax. But I also have this animation. So like whenever I click something, it starts a coroutine and like animates the color of the background and the border. As you can see, I wanted it to kind of like grab your attention the moment I click. So I'm calling color.snap to. So this like makes it into the white color immediately. And then I have like a nice fading out animation. So it's in case something caught your eye on the left, and you want to see what it was, the animation doesn't disappear immediately, but it kind of like fades out nicely. And you can see it in action here. Right. So thank you guys for the talk, coming to my talk. And if you want to find me, I'm at sinasamaki.com. That's my website. I'm also at sinasamaki on Twitter and at Blue Sky, sinasamaki.com. Yeah.
Thank you, Sinasamaki. I think I was not the only one who really enjoyed your presentation done in your tool of choice, Jetpack Compose. And one question was, actually two questions was very related to that. If you can maybe share more details, show us the source code, in your IDE, and maybe guide us through, how you did it. You showed some snippets out of that in your presentation, but if you can go directly to ID and show it to the crowd, maybe because we have like 7 minutes.
So if you want to dive into the code, it is on my GitHub as well at Sinasamaki. The project is called ChromaDex. I don't think that's very visible, but yeah, ChromaDex. And what I do is I use this not just for presentations, but also for YouTube videos. And it's just to create the animations of the slides. So here you can see a lot of commented code. And so this is my list of slides that I just move up and down in terms of like the order that I want it to be in. But it's all taken into this slides presenter 2. Slides presenter 1 was deprecated, so don't use that. Yeah, but you can see I'm able to like move things around. And then other than the slides, I also have like custom animators on this. So the slides presenter just takes in the content and puts it in a very large lazy column. I chose lazy column instead of vertical pager because vertical pager kind of optimizes when you move very quickly, and I wanted to be able to page through the slides quickly. So yeah, it takes it and puts in a lazy column, and based on the Y position, it animates. Yeah, you can use the Y position to animate anything. I have some custom ones over here. So parallax just moves the slides instead of the lazy column moving like this. It's more with a parallax effect, and you can put the factor. And then I also have the fade in, fade out animations and a blur animation. So all these are just kind of wrappers on the modifiers, but applying it on the correct lazy list item. but you can just do it over here globally, and it works on every single item altogether. I can also do it per slide, but I've never found a use for that. I just thought it was cool to implement it, and I never used it. So I just use the same animation for every one of them, the blur, fade, and parallax. And that's what you see here.
Then there is another question because in your case, as I said, you actually a mixture of designer and engineer. But in most of the cases, you have engineers and you have designers, and designers usually don't necessarily know the details or like the whole capabilities of the, for example, Jetpack Compose. So the question is, what tools, if there are any specific tools for Jetpack Compose for designers to actually utilize the platform fully in order to define animations like that, or what is your approach?
Actually, I do not have any much experience with that. What I can say is in terms of like working with your designers, I have found that Compose multi-platform is quite useful for that. So right now I'm using it for presentation, but you can use it also, let's say, to do some handover or some, yeah, I guess, review, design review with your designers. Being able to, like, for example, create a desktop target that has the animation, but it has like different things that you can change. So let's say changing the spring, changing the damping, changing the duration. You can provide that to your designer and just give them give it to them, and then they give you back the values that you need to put the duration for the fade animation and all of that. I do find it useful for that. For designers working with this, I don't know, maybe using AI or something to code
Okay.
it up. Yeah.
Okay. Another question: how to communicate that one can long press an item?
Ooh. Uh, yeah, I think it depends on like how serious your application is. So you can do multiple things. Visually, you can make it maybe shrink or expand as the user is like touching it. I do know there is I think the local view configuration, you can find the user's setting on how long a long press should take. So like if they have it as short or very long, and then you can use this to animate it in or out slowly or fast. And then also, of course, change color, like what I showed. And then haptic feedback is also very important to, especially with long presses. It's something usually serious. So, yeah, haptic feedback would be nice.
Okay. And the last question for the moment: what do you think about liquid glass design, and Apple pushing it? Being an Android guy, so what do you think about that?
Can I say no comments?
No, you have to comment.
I have to talk.
Yeah.
uh, well, to be honest, I'm a big fan of like technology as a whole. So including Apple, I love Apple products as well, and I watch all the WWDCs. I have to say I was a bit disappointed by Liquid Glass when it came out. I, and I think it's even worse when we have Android developers being asked to implement Liquid Glass on Android. If that's happening, that's don't like it. But I do find it technically impressive in terms of like how the light refracts and all that. I just wish it was a bit better implemented.
Okay, no more questions. My personal question, like since you spent so much time with, like working on your own designs and so on, how do you justify it to your, like shareholders to actually introduce it into your application? Because it's something new, there are some guidelines coming from Apple, Google, whatever, and then there is Sinasamaki coming with his own thingies, how do you sell it?
Uh, well, I am in a very unique position at my workplace. I'm part of like the solutions team, so, and making something visually attractive for customers is a nice selling point. And some of our customers also like more custom things depending on their usages. As I mentioned, photo and video editor SDK It could be sometimes an Android phone or an Android app or React Native or Flutter, but other times it could be custom UI for a kiosk somewhere, and you want that to be matching your brand. So I have to say I did find a good job to practice all this stuff that I'm doing.